It's been about 5 years since I used to frequent Kidderminster town centre, my hometown. You know, at the time I had a lot of issues. You know, was involved in a family feud. I was involved in a paternity case. I was trying to do a master's. I was having all sorts of upheavals, problems with one or two friends, and issues with the town centre. And these issues sort of drew me into the place, you know, quite ominously. And, you know, looking back and remembering how a policeman who was about to leave the area, like, sat in a car park almost in a state of shock as he told me that he'd worked all over the place, and Kidderminster was by far the worst place he'd worked, that there was just this negative energy all across, that went across the town. And he just kept repeating that phrase, negative energy, and I'll never forget it. You know, and also more recently a psychologist who said to me that there's times when, especially with creative people, that he's just had to write people off as their problem being that they come from Kidderminster. You know, they're doing building works like you saw on the clips, trying to, you know, spruce up the place. Fair play to them, you know, the council or whoever's doing it. You know, trying to lift the place up a bit, but it's the culture and you know, looking back again to what people used to say to me, that the culture of this place, the mindset has not changed for 500 years. You can dispute the number, but I can see how that could take place, because people tend to internalise the culture and replicate it as these things happen. You know, and going back into the town centre to you know, see what it's like in the past week or so. You know, and in the intervening period, you know, my life's pretty much sorted itself out. The family feud's come to an end. I've sort of got distance between some of the stressful events that were taking place. My social life has balanced itself out. I'm no longer doing a master's, and so on and so forth. And I also thought a bit about the place and sort of tied things together. I was already doing that in blog posts all those years ago, because you could get away with it then. You can't now. Social media was a different thing back then. It was sort of an escape route where not everyone was on it at the time. You had the early adopters who sort of, you know, knew what good content was and knew how to have a debate and so on and so forth. You know, now we've got more everyday people, and really we weren't ever prepared in terms of our education and in terms of the media for using social media. You know, so it's hardly a surprise that it's become so bad that it's not as good as what it was. But, you know, looking at how limited and limiting the norms and values are here, how they constrain people so much, how, you know, how far to the right this town is, and yet people don't see it, because, you know, I've seen people come from outside the area and become assimilated to it within hours. So what hope is there for people to see it? I remember going back, I used to have a neighbour who used to be high up in the civic, you know, organisation of things, and we stood on the town hall steps, and he had this right-wing approach to, you know, to what the problem was, and Kidderminster, the people of Kidderminster will pull themselves up by their bootlaces, and, you know, and all this, you know, harking back to old things and so on and so forth. And, you know, the idea that there was a global recession going on just seemed to escape him. But I explained what the problem was, what the problems were, and how you could approach dealing with them. But his approach is typical of the area. You just deflect it. It's just like, oh, you're very clever, Jason, and that was it. Right, okay, this guy's doing this guy's doing that. He may know what he's talking about. He may have an opinion worth listening to that says, no. It's the way this crazy hierarchy works here on the basis of posh. And this is a problem for the whole county of Worcestershire. That there's nothing really substantial there, only the desire with a lot of people to be posh. And that creates a whole load of problems because, you never really deal with anything because your political stance prevents you from doing it, and these narrow and limiting norms look so natural to them, to the people here, the majority of the people here, that this is the way of life. It's no surprise that a lot of the posts on Facebook, for example, will say things like, we don't want human rights. The reason they don't want human rights is because they want to do it their own way. And that's the way it is. But getting distance from that and how the toxic attitude, I met someone more recently who'd come from out of town, and they just couldn't believe the attitude of the majority of the people here. And like I say, if you don't notice it quick, this place you will become assimilated to this place, and then you're lost, you're gone. I was talking to a friend of mine, and his theory is that the great problem with Kidderminster is those miles of green belt between Kidderminster and Stourbridge, that what would be a link to the modern world, to something that's not so insular and backward as this place. But that's the way it is. And like I said, 500 years, someone told me that the mindset hadn't changed here. And you can see from different things why that might be the case. And going back to that, and after having a break from it and sort of, figuring it out. And like one of the first days, I went back into the town centre and I sat there and I could feel this oppressive weight of stress and just this insularity start to overwhelm me. And then I remembered all the stuff that I'd figured out and so on and so forth, and I sort of pulled out of it. But today I got into the town at about 1 o'clock, and by 3:30 I just sat there and I thought, I cannot put up with this place for 1 minute longer. It was just so oppressively toxic. Now, is there a solution? I don't think there is. I honestly don't think there is. Most people don't see it. Those people who do see it are not part of the mechanisms, the organisations, the institutions, whatever, that could do anything about it. It never gets reported. Would it be reported? I doubt if it would be. No academics are really going to bother wasting their time picking apart a place like this. And so that's it. So I'll continue with the nice little routine I've set up. I've now got a base and everything's sort of sorted itself out for me. But it was strange to go back there. The Nero, Cafe Nero seems to be the epicentre of the toxicity in Weaver's Wharf, this little strip of commercial land where they sort of sell a lifestyle, this sort of traditional place with the air of sophistication. Well, the connotations that you get from the word sophistication, the majority of the people who go to Cafe Nero are anything but. But they're like the old alcoholics you used to get at the pubs. They're like the modern day version of it, fairly socially isolated, quite poor, working class, not very intelligent, not really got a grasp of things. But at least the people at the pubs knew they were working class. They didn't bother with this, this desire to be posh and sophisticated and whatever. In those places it was like looked down on. Here it's sort of, I see people, can barely read, sitting there, almost with a pipe reading the Times of London, and then you sort of realise why these people have got issues that they won't resolve, which is a pity. But I've got a little fan club there, headed by this toxic little character who's sort of semi-obsessed with me. I don't know if he's still obsessed with me. He used to be years ago. But it's just like bizarre. And I just get the, you're just reminded of the things people have said about the place, and it's just like, see ya. I did bump in to a few people who I know and I've known for years, and it was great to see them. And I sort of started feeling optimistic and let my guard down a bit. Big mistake. But one of the people I met was a mate of mine, and he said, "I didn't even recognise you. You've gone really fat." I said, "Yeah, I know. I'm still waiting for the medical people to sort out my non-fat pills. But it's going to happen. Hopefully by this time in spring I should be back to normal sort of thing. But you never know. But anyway, my ventures downtown are probably going to come to an end now. I can't be doing it. It's like, for example, while I've been here doing, I sort of do stuff pottering around the house now some of the time, and then most of the time I'm sort of doing research. So at some stage in the future, for example, I may go back to university saying, look, I've got this skill set, I've got this knowledge, I'd like to do something sort of thing. And I've noticed when I'm here, my level of concentration and my depth of understanding is really, really good. When I'm around there, or when I'm talking about the town centre, or when I'm under the effects of the town centre, forget it. But so there's another reason to just package up Weaver's Wharf, Kidderminster town centre, and say, well, despite the efforts of the builders, the culture really isn't ever going to change. It's resistant to change in many, many ways. And just look forward to days where, I can get in the car and sample places elsewhere while getting on with my thing. Anyway.